Okay, so let's talk about the month of February. Now, when I talk about these pieces, right, these archetypal medicine stories, when they speak, I try and give you a little sense of like who is actually speaking. So the first piece that wanted to speak this month is a piece that I call karmic contract, because it's all about karmic contracts that we have, right? Soul level agreements. Now, here's the thing. We often think about like, the karmic contracts that we might have with like our twin flame or like with that person that, the dude that did us wrong. Um, but humans as a collective also have a soul contract with the earth. Okay. So there is an exchange inherent in a soul contract, right? Whether or not we are conscious of it, whether or not we are clear about what it is, we have an agreement with the earth. And we made that as a species, like as again, and before we even arrived on this planet. So it's sort of like the oversoul of humanity. Now, for those who don't know what an oversoul is, it is like not just a single soul, it is like a group soul. It's the kind of like almost like egg sac, right? If you think about like how an egg grows people, right? And it's like an umbilical, not sorry, it's like a placenta almost, like a soul placenta for all of humanity. Now, generally speaking, this exchange, what we agree to is that we steward the earth, right? We are stewards of the earth and we are its caretakers. Pretty obvious. And in exchange, our souls get to experience the embodiment of being. And that is a very powerful thing, right? Otherwise, we would just be this like nebulous floating intelligence. And there are species and races of other beings, other galactic, right, races out there. Call them aliens, they're not all alien, but so, and some of them are very, it's like a very different experience. Embodiment is a huge, like, evolutionary growth opportunity for any being. So you've probably heard people talk about like Earth School and stuff like that. Earth School is fucking dope. Earth School is like the Harvard of, the galactic universities. We are a powerful place to experience things that you can't experience anywhere else. It's a pretty cool exchange. But we are actually in a renegotiation period because if you haven't noticed, humans haven't really held up their end of the bargain, right? We haven't really done our due diligence as stewards and caretakers of the earth. We've just kind of trashed it. So we are kind of being put on notice. It's not like, the apocalypse. It's not like the end of humanity. And I did ask because I was like, but it is a shift in terms of the timeline, in terms of what's happening on this planet and like how quickly it's happening. So they really wanted to speak to the fact. I love that Ariel said, yeah, we've been running shit like a frat party. Exactly. So right now on our planet, and especially this month, you might have already noticed a shift in the energetics of your experience. So January was a little bit of sludgy. It was like we were still kind of cleaning things up and like packing it up, getting cleaned up. And now we are moving into an acceleration of change. Last year, in terms of like the Chinese astrology, it was a water rabbit year. So a lot more passive, a lot more like, kind of soft and gentle. This year is wood dragon, earth dragon. That is the energy of it. I won't go into like all the dragon lore, but dragons are the primordial gods of this planet. They are deeply connected with the earth and they are here as stewards as well. So we are awakening, but not yet evolving at the rate that we need to be to address what is actually happening on our planet. Right? It's like several different time scales. And where we need to be we haven't gotten there yet. Okay. It's like there's certain, populations that are kind of dragging their feet. So what's happening right now, and again, you might have already like be feeling this, is an acceleration of your awakening timeline in order to meet these shifting event horizons. So event horizons are basically like, it's like God, how do I even describe it? It's a threshold, okay? And these thresholds can shift depending on like so many different factors. Humanity and its growth being just one of them, but a very critical, important one. So what you might have been noticing is that there is a streamlining of your experience right now and a massive shedding. There is probably a lot leaving your world, and that is on purpose. It needs to happen. You actually need to lighten the load, right? You are like dumping water out of the boat because you need to be able to evolve. And the whole point of this shedding and streamlining is like, you can't go where you need to go carrying the burdens of old you. You can't be like dawdling anymore, right? It's like you overpacked for the hike and now you got to kind of like let some stuff go. So you are actually being asked to step into the role you came here to play, like big mission destiny. You are being asked to really fully step into that. The last couple years were like definitely practice. Okay. Definitely getting ready, definitely packing that backpack. But now the backpack's on your back and you are walking. Like we are here now. So whether you feel ready or not, your destiny has gotten activated. Okay. So one of the first like big kind of messages that came through is stops playing small. Recognize your God self. Okay. You are co-creating this reality in every moment. That is also something the dragons teach us. They are creators and destroyers. Okay. So here's the thing. You need both energies to do your work, right? So if you've had a lot of destruction, you also need to balance that with creation. If you're someone who loves creating things and then all of a sudden you have an excess of things, you need to get good with destroying some of that. Okay. So dragon energy is actually about harnessing these two forces of creation. Like destruction is not bad. It is necessary. Okay. Because we do not live in an endlessly expanding ecosystem. We live in a like fixed reality, like Earth. So this is really important. You have the powers of both. You need to be learning the powers of both, actively using the powers of both creation and destroying. Okay. That's how we keep things in balance. So if you're dragging your feet, it's time to stop doing that. Again, we're not all going to feel ready to go into battle, right? We're never going to feel fully ready for anything that is ours to own. You need to let that shit go now. Your fear that you're not enough, your fear that like you don't know how to do it, you're going to learn. Okay. Life is guiding you there. Everything that's coming your way now is either a test to get more ready or an activation to fulfill something that you came here to do. So stop waiting, stop playing around. Do not waste your time. One of the big messages that I've been receiving for a lot of like clients that I work with is take your power seriously. Okay. Take your power fucking seriously. If you are giving it away to something that doesn't serve you, take that shit back now. Okay. We do not have time for you to be like, bah. Like we are past that. You need to step in. You need to step in and start playing like you for real. So it is time to see the truth of yourself. Okay. You like one of the things I've been really realizing is like, holy crap, this thing I'm doing, this incarnation I get to have, my work is the answer of a prayer that I almost didn't dare to acknowledge to myself for years. It terrified me. I was like, I don't know if I get to do that or be that. That seems like, whoa, how do I get there? Again, it's not up to you to figure it out. Recognize that the dream that feels so incredibly like big but true is the dream you get to have. Okay. So our life, the reality of what we came here to do, it should kind of terrify us a little bit. That's how we grow into it. So trust that if you have a dream inside of you, if you have a prayer you've been praying that feels so immense and unbelievable, it is for you. Okay. And you need to trust it. You are the only one who can trust it. So what they were saying is that it's like a lot of us are like, we know that there's this path in front of us, right? It's like kind of been shown to us, but it's like we're looking at it through a dirty windshield. And that's sort of like that filth on the windshield. That's not, that's like, it isn't the path. Do you know what I mean? It's the shit that's just on the windshield. It's like I've been driving around my car and there's like this swarm of birds that's been like swarming the neighborhood and it shat all over my car. I haven't taken it to a car wash yet. That's kind of what it's like. Okay. Don't confuse like that shit on the windshield with like thinking that the path isn't for you or that you're not ready, right? Or that the shit's on you. It's just on the windshield. But nonetheless, sometimes we confuse the windshield with our vision, with our sight, with what we actually see for ourselves. So it's important if you feel like that's the situation you're facing right now, like you're like, I see the path and I know it's for me, but there's kind of like all this like gookiness on it that I can't quite see through clearly, then this ritual is for you. Okay. Because we need to clean this up now. It's time. We got to give it back. It's not yours. We don't have time to waste on it. Stop letting that distract you. But it's easy to, right? Because like, think about driving in like the rain with a dirty windshield and no windshield wipers. It feels impossible to stay on the road. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to find 2 white chicken's eggs. Now, chickens like as a whole have a sacrificial like covenant with humans. So eggs are very powerful, like purification tools for us spiritually. They suck up what is not ours. They suck up the filth that's like in our field, and they will help remove it in a good way. So it's really essential that your eggs are white if you can get them. So 2 white chicken's eggs. You're going to take yourself and these eggs and some honey to a river. Now, you're going to want to like find a nice little spot next to that river where you can lay fully on the earth on your back. Now, I love this because you're going to lay face up, right? And you're going to put these 2 chicken's eggs like in the little hollows of your eyes. And they recommend putting them for 5 minutes, like just laying there and literally feel these eggs absorbing that like dirt on your vision. Imagine it just pulling out anything that is not serving your walk, that is clouding your perspective. You might even want to ask it out loud, like, eggs, please take from me anything that is distorting my like my pure vision. So about 5 minutes, right? Just let it sit there, put on a timer, and just let it happen. Now, does not hurt again to ask out loud for your vision to be cleaned up so you can play your holy role now. Once that's complete, you get up and you're going to take these eggs to that river and you are going to declare to the river, which is a healing entity, especially a running river, right? That shit is ready to take that energy and get it gone. So declare yourself willing to see now, to see true, to see clearly. Let me, ask, like, may nothing distort my vision any longer, because I am ready to walk this path now. And ask to be shown your next step. Once that's done, they recommend putting a drop of honey on your third eye because honey is a potentiator. And it's essentially asking, like, let me see from here now. Let me see the truth now through this eye. Potentiate this vision now, because that is the true vision. Ask for your knowing to be pollinated and for you to be able to trust that knowing whenever it speaks. Now, that ritual is complete. Offer those eggs to the river. Ask them to take that back to source. You no longer need that filth. I recommend continuing after that. You don't need to do the eggs again, but keep asking for your next step. Keep declaring that you are determined to see and watch what life brings you. Okay. Watch what gets moved out of your way. Watch what moves into place. And do not hesitate. Okay. Trust that what is here for you is yours, but you must be willing to act. So that's the first message. Now, this all kind of builds, which I really like. So the second piece that spoke was, it's called Broken Earth. And I love this piece because what it says is that something is falling apart to fall together. Now, something big is falling apart. We know it, we feel it, we sense it on a primal animal level. A structure that we have assumed to be fail-safe is failing. And that structure is collective. It's a societal structure, right? And actually what they called it is the operating system of society. So in many ways, this is capitalism, right? But there could be other things in that operating system as well. And here's the thing. It's not just starting this month. It's been happening. It will continue to happen. Now, there's no, like, they were very clear. They're like, this is like a tower card in tarot, right? Like, it will fall. This old structure is like a pair of pants that's too small now. It no longer supports or serves what we need to become now. Right. And we feel that constriction, we feel that pressure. Because what we originally conceived as a collective, right? Think back to like 1776. That was the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, and Pluto just moved back into Aquarius. So what we originally envisioned as a collective has reached the end of its imagination. That dream has found its limit now. So what was conceived as liberating has become extractive and exploitive. It has become a prison, and it needs to evolve. So yeah, I mean, the reality is it will bottom out. There will be some kind of devastation. I don't know what that will look like, but we will not find our solution from inside the prison. We will not find our solution from inside the limiting paradigm that created the problem. That's why something needs to fall apart. Because in that collapse, we can see clearly. We can see outside the prison. There's the balloons. Okay. Zima's been doing that. I literally don't know what brings up the balloons, but beautiful. So again, thinking about, like, we are clearing our vision so we can move different. We must move different now. So it will require many eyes to see forward, like what is next. And that is why this is a collective structural annihilation, right? It is a collective imagination that is being recalibrated, reborn through this devastation. So the greatest thing you can continue doing for yourself right now is to continue flexing your new vision. Like, it will be a practice, okay? Because again, it's like we've already gotten the eye surgery in a sense, but we're still strengthening the muscles that will support that way of seeing. The other thing that will support you is to release your grip on the known ways of doing things. So we're going to talk about this because we are entering a period of void in a sense, right? We cannot fully know yet. We are going to go through that birth canal. But we have already sort of like started to be shown things. And so the question that they gave me was, what is floating at the edge of your periphery? Notice when interesting new ideas, new ways of doing things they're like right here, right? They're not fully like in our line of sight yet. We haven't fully dialed in, right, the telescope, but they're over here. So do your best to notice when it feels like something new has entered your field, something revolutionary, something, oh, that's a new way of doing something. Okay, take note, because that will help you. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is elders. And I love this because we are living in a time of elders, but not in the way that we have understood eldership before. A new definition of elder is coming online. This isn't your parents' definition of elder, right? And by that, I mean like ancient, dusty dudes who have aged out of actual embodiment with what reality is now. So think about a lot of not to make this political, we're not going to take it really there, but a lot of the memes around like Biden and Trump, right? And there's one in particular of like, here's the people making decisions for you. And it's like this decrepit, like skeletal, like, shriveled husk of a person sitting in a wheelchair. That's no longer the eldership that serves the collective. That is an antiquated, outdated idea. Age does not equal wisdom. Okay. Age does not equal leadership. So just because someone is older or an elder does not make them like a good choice. So, and this conflation of age and wisdom, or, someone's been doing this for like 800 years, so of course they're the best choice. Not really. This is an outdated structure that needs to go. So, not only are these like antiquated elders disconnected from the needs, like the true voice and needs of our now, but it's a hierarchical and rigid idea of what eldership even is. Boring. We don't want it. It doesn't reflect us. So, all right. Okay, so age and eldership, it's like not the same. Now, consider instead, as we think about who might an elder be? What does an elder look like? And more importantly, what defines eldership now? Consider instead, who is taking responsibility? And are they taking responsibility? Like, are they willing to take responsibility for more than themselves? That is one of the definitions of community that I hold really dear, because it moves us out of this individualistic mindset, this highly competitive paradigm, and into action and leadership on behalf of the greater whole. So who is taking responsibility? for themselves, but also more than themselves? Who is accountable, not only to themselves, but to others? Who is willing to be held accountable? Who is willing to step up and steward? True leadership is actually stewardship. Okay. And like, I really invite you to feel, what does stewardship mean to you? It's less of like a kind of militaristic, like, let's go, like I'm at the front of the battle line. And it's more of like a gathering in, like, hey, this is our earth. This is our land. This is our home. What can we do about it? Who is an advocate for more than themselves? Who speaks up on behalf of people who are marginalized, who are oppressed, who do not have access to a platform or a voice or a role, right? And who recognizes the collective as a governing body, as a legitimate governing body? Now, I want to acknowledge that, like, I'm going to give you an example, and I don't feel it's a wholly inclusive example, but it was the best one that they gave us because she's very known. And they said Greta Thunberg. That's a really powerful example. And they like it because they're like, she's young. She's not what you would originally classify as an elder. But this woman actually adheres to all these examples and considerations of eldership, right? She recognizes her responsibility and takes action regardless of whether or not she's been elected. Her ethics have elected her. Her sense of timing and urgency have elected her. Her care and compassion for the earth have elected her. She is not waiting around to be recognized. She has let all of those things elect her into the kind of leadership that does not require a battalion, right? It is a compass that calls others in, like, forward. That is the kind of leadership we need now. Are you so willing to walk in your integrity, to honor your own beliefs, to do it with others on behalf of others, to find those like places of balance and compromise? Are you that ready? Can you be seen? That is true responsibility. Can you walk your walk? And can you let it lead you to the places that you need to go, that need your protection? So governing as a collective, like, I know that we have some systems in place, right? Like we elect our, president and shit like that, but we aren't governing as a collective in a truly democratic, inclusive, and progressive way. And I'm going to get more into this because it really kind of stretches my brain. And I'm guessing probably all of our brains, because it is a stretch. It is an evolutionary edge that humanity is walking on right now. So governing as a collective is sort of what they said, an alien concept, almost an alien technology, right? It is, we don't actually know how to fully conceive of this kind of governance. Okay. It's sort of like the example they gave me was like hive mind. Like, that's a very powerful example and sort of like metaphor to think about. Like, could we subsume the priority that we place on the individual to actually see ourselves as truly a hive, right? But this would require a tremendous recalibration of how we understand power and agency and governance and hierarchy. It would completely destabilize most hierarchical forms of power immediately. It would require a totally different level of collaboration. It would necessitate new forms of communication ones that we haven't totally invented yet. We've seen some like seeds of it, but y'all, it's not social media. I'm sorry, it's not. And like we are experiencing the limits of that with Palestine. Okay. There's something that's being seeded there, though. I will acknowledge that. So I want to talk more about this alien concept of like hive mind. So if you are at all familiar with some of like the galactic kind of races, there's a few in particular that actually they evolved and were able to transcend off the planet because their technology and evolution increased so exponentially as a result of their like the how do I say the diminishment, but like the deprioritization of the individual in order to expand the power of the collective. So there is a loss there that we will have to grapple with if we want to truly like advance in a way that would benefit the most people. And so that is, like I said, we're gonna have to reckon with that. It's not going to be easy because it challenges everything we know and hold to be true right now about our life, how we see ourselves, how we move. And again, we don't know how to fully use this kind of power yet. We have just entered the age of Aquarius, and Pluto is the planet of like deep upheaval, deep shadow reckoning. So that's a huge thing to pay attention to. We are going to be looking at the destabilization of power and hierarchy and individualism. And it starts here. So, but here's the thing, like the loss of individualism within a village gives rise to this multicellular organism. This is not the first time that these beings have spoken about this. They keep bringing it back up because they're seeding that idea in the collective right now. Now, when I say multicellular organism, what I mean is like literally human beings are cells in a larger hive being. That's the best way I can think to explain it, right? This hive mind, this hive body, this hive collective, they're saying that's how we need to start seeing ourselves. That's how we need to start collaborating. Because if we just continue to promote and prioritize the individual, it will be at the expense of the collective. These are the things that are being like brought into balance right now. So in a multicellular organism, energy, ideas, power, agency is constantly moving and invigorating action at all levels. And the best way I can really describe this is think of how a body, a human body, works in symphony with itself, right? Like if you could only move, like if there was only one part that was like the ultimate president, right? The CEO of your body, you would die straight up. Your brain works in concert with your heart, works in concert with your lungs. Like you have to be moving and shifting energy and power through all these different parts of your body constantly. And it's making decisions together on your behalf. But to privilege, like, yeah, you could lose a toe and still die, like still be alive, right? Like, no offense to the toes, but they really want you to think about this because that's what they're trying to show us is like, if we were to start moving in symphony with each other in the same way that a body and all the organs and parts and pieces come together, we're talking like super organism. We're talking quantum leap evolutionary growth. Right now, we are like a body that is attacking itself. So here's the thing. Okay, Pluto and Aquarius. Aquarius is all about technology and the collective and like progression, right? The advancement of both. So we do have some technology in existence right now on our planet that does enable this kind of governance. Bitcoin is one example, or like rather, blockchain is an example, right? The distribution of computing power is one example of how technology does enable a very advanced, sophisticated form of computing. It's still not there yet, though, because it's still extracting so much power and energy from the earth at the expense of the earth. So it's not fully complete in terms of its own advancement or evolution, right? In terms of its own design, essentially. Um, so we do have the beginning potentials of this kind of technology on our planet, but it hasn't yet reached its maturity by any stretch. That's what this next 20-year phase is about, y'all. Now, when I talk about technology awakening, I'm not talking about robots having sentience. It could be that too. But I'm talking about technology enabling a new kind of sentience through humanity, right? For us to fully realize the power that we hold as a collective body. There is a difference. And that is the true innovation that is possible in this next era. But there's going to be like, it is a battleground, right? Because there's this autocratic kind of like grip, right? Oh my goodness. Balloons for the autocrats, God bless. So there's like this autocratic, right? It's like the death grip of the old guard on technology, wanting to continue to use it in service of that hierarchical, like militaristic, singular, individualistic force. But the other is what we're talking about, this like distributed hive, collective governing body, sentience that's moving through all of us, of which we are all an essential part. So it's time to operate like a cell, is what they were saying. And they were like, be really careful because obviously there's like incels, different thing. For us to think like a cell, to act like a cell in a living human body. Okay. Now, we need to be in conversation with the rest of the body, which is the rest of our people, the rest of the collective. But it doesn't look like what we think it does. And what I mean by that is like, it's not consuming content on social media and calling that a fucking conversation. It's reinventing what conversation looks like, how it operates, what it enables. That is the frontier we are heading into. Now, the other thing that they wanted to speak into is that it's not necessarily what they would call hard technology. It's not necessarily a brand new iPhone. It's not necessarily a brand new social media platform, right? These things are, again, limiting ideas of what technology is and does. This is what I would call soft technology, how we move together, how we act in symphony, how we enable collaboration, how we are accountable to one another and the planet. It has to include all of those parts, or it is not enough. So I want to make really clear that these are not small shifts. This is not just this month. These are big time evolutionary trajectories that will span the next 2 decades. And again, the seeds are being planted here and now. It will take us years. So plant these seeds. Note this. Let go of what you don't need right now or any longer. Let it go. What is coming in is so big, so immense. You need all your computing power. Okay. You can't be carrying like all these other burdens with you. Streamlined. Okay. Now, okay. The last message and my favorite part of this whole transmission. It's about a homecoming. Now, I want you to keep in mind that home is a place that we go back to. Think about how you talk about home. Most of the time, it's like, oh, I got to go back home, right? Back being an important word here. Now, we often need to go back in order to go forward. And we're going to talk a lot about what that actually means. Now, over the past 3 years, right, since 2020, the pandemic, we have had to go back to go forward. Now, if you can recall, in 2020, there was a lot of chatter about 2020 was the year of clear vision. There's that vision again. Okay. Now, in this time period, we have been shown both what we need to leave behind and what we need to gather to truly come home to ourselves and this planet. And that is how we go forward. Now, one of my favorite writers and philosophers once said that every advancement casts a shadow. I want you to really like dial that in. Every advancement casts a shadow. There is no progress without some sort of having to go back. So we have been living inside part of that shadow for the past, right, three-ish years for our own learning and benefit. That might not land really well for the people who really struggled in the pandemic. And let's be real, we all struggled. But what have you learned about yourself in this time? What shackles have you cast off? Where did you struggle the most? What had to leave you? What did you have to leave in order for you to evolve and grow forward? And also, what did you have to go back and return to and get in order to go forward? It's a both and. Now, think about a continental rift where two tectonic plates meet. Okay? This is a place of tremendous power and tremendous pressure. These plates, when they collide, they rub up against each other. And it is here where both mountains and volcanoes are born. Pressure mobilizes power. Pressure mobilizes power. Now, let's talk about mountains and volcanoes. I want you first to feel in your body the difference between those two energies. What does a mountain evoke? And what does a volcano evoke? I'll tell you what it brings up for me. Mountains are wisdom beings. They show us where we need to up level. They are a place where clear vision arrives, right? When we summit, we get to the top and we can see the whole landscape. We struggle to get there, right? Climbing a mountain is no easy feat. But when we arrive at the top, there is a tremendous benefit. We can understand and appreciate the scope of what we have been through and what it has done for us. They reveal to us the full landscape of our reality. What lives here? What shadows, what valleys, what peaks? What is mine to claim? Look at your kingdom. Mountains are majestic because they force us to reach inside of us for a primordial strength and ancient power in order to summit their peaks. No one climbs a mountain like la-di-da, Do you know what I'm saying? People die climbing a mountain. So this is a significant investment in growth. Now, let's talk about those volcanoes. Ooh, I love it. Ariel says creation is the mountain and destruction is the volcano. Oh, chef's kiss. I love that. Yes, exactly. Volcanoes are volatile. They are foundationally unstable. They can't be trusted. They erupt without warning. They destroy any life in their vicinity. They burn it all to the ground. Now, keep in mind, these are the same structural shape. They're both triangles, right? They both have this like similar design, but they do fundamentally different things. So in this whole kind of past 3 years, we have summited some mountains. And we have also seen some volcanoes erupt in our lives as a result of this pressure. So this is where I invite you to get out that piece of paper that I asked you to bring, because this is gonna be really helpful. Who have you become as a result of encountering these pressures, these tremendous forces? What have they mobilized in you? Where have you been forced to reach higher, to dig deeper in service of your growth? And where have you become more fragile, volatile, explosive, unstable? I want you to write down whatever comes up for you just immediately. Now, keep in mind, it does not serve your growth to judge the ugly parts, right? We need to be able to look at these volcanoes and be like, okay, it is what it is. It's here. It happened. I'm glad I get to see it. Because like breadcrumbs, all of these dots on the map are leading us home. And we need all of us to summit the real mountain. We are starting that climb right now. So the invitation here, and we're not going to like do it all right now, but definitely I want you to, if anything is coming up for you, like take that note, capture it while it's hot in here. Because the invitation here is to really look at what was brought out of the shadows and into the light during the past 3 years. The good, the ugly, the bad, the breathtaking, all of it. This is not a small map. This is a major like chunk. So the beings invite you to make a map, to truly like identify the landscape, make note of the significant mountains and volcanoes that happened for you in this time, because they are needed and they are necessary where we are going next. So again, what was the good that came out of this time period? You know, some people like got down to some real big work, right? Some people like turned over some big stones, got really clear about certain things, had some reckonings, had some realizations, right? Grew up. So how did you grow? How did you grow up? What was strengthened and refined in you? What was forged? And then identify the bad, right? The volcanoes. I don't really want to use the word bad because it's not bad, but notice, where did you encounter your weakest links? The parts of you that are unsteady, fragile, shaky, stumbling still. right? The parts of you that were like, oof, real hard to look at and face. You know, I know a lot of us encountered some real shit out there. Maybe you got to meet some dragons or monsters in your personal life or psyche. What were they? What rotted in that time? What died? What wanted to be loved back into wholeness? Because all of it wants to be loved back into wholeness. And here's the thing, y'all. The real trick pony, we must gather all of this now for the road ahead. Okay. So the invitation is to really like do this map, tell yourself the truth. Don't leave any stone unturned. Look at and reckon with what you have overcome and what was undone in that time and gather it back in. Put it in your little Santa Claus sack, right? You're taking it with you. Put it in the backpack. And here's what dragons do. I love this. So one of the ways that one of my teachers talks about dragons is he's like, dragons, demons and gods. They're just both beings of power, right? Dragons and demons, dragons are a god. They're a primordial god. They are a demon who has its full kundalini activated. So a demon is just a being of power that does not know how to direct its own force. And so it just goes everywhere and destroys things, right? Causes a lot of chaos. Same with this. If your volcanoes are just exploding all over the place, they're just decimating, areas of your life that could otherwise be flourishing. So all of the like volcanoes are really a potential mountain, but it is up to us to like kiss the toad, right? And flip the coin, be like, how do I turn this shit into gold? Because you can. Again, remember, this is your God self moment. There is a part of you that is now equipped to deal with this. So the question that they're asking is, how can you look at these exiles, these volcanoes, these parts that are so like, oof, yikes, and give it a new job? Give the power back to it and give it a direction, give it a channel. Focus that energy, focus that fuel so it stops burning up your life in a certain place. What do you need to do to give that direction agency? It serves you to be honest with yourself about what needs to happen now. For real, y'all. I've just been going through this myself. And again, we don't really have the time to dilly-dally or waste. So the final invitation for you is to make a list of 3 actions that you have been putting off, that you've been like, next time, when I'm ready, when this happens, when that happens. No, 3 actions based on this map or based on anything that came up for you tonight where you're like, ooh, it's time. It's time for me to really take action on that. 3 that you can, well, you will commit to doing this month. Maybe you got to like cut the cord on a relationship that has just been toxic. Maybe like this happened for me recently. Maybe you need to like quit smoking weed, right? Maybe you need to take this action that has been just like sitting on your shoulder for the past months, years, and honor it fully and finally. Because all of you needs to be here now for what's ahead. Now is the time. All right, y'all. That is the end of the transmission. before we segue into the discussion, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. It's a privilege to be able to share this with you. And yeah, thank you.
There you go.